Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth, another podcast by Dr. Leslie Phillips.
To Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. My name is Dr. Leslie Phillips and I'm going to be your host for the next hour. And we have a great show in store for you this evening. As you know, Unlocking Your Truth is a talk show and the focus is metaphysics and spirituality. So we love talking about anything in that realm. We have been doing a series on meditation for the last couple of weeks. We started off talking about how to develop a regular meditation habit. And then last week we talked about how to quiet your busy monkey mind. And this evening we're going to talk about calming the emotions. Calming the emotions. Because that is another challenge that people have when they wish to learn to meditate and also just going about their daily lives, suffering from emotional overwhelm. And of course, if you want to develop your intuition, which is something we're passionate about on this show, then having a regular meditation practice and being able to separate yourself from your emotions is an important factor in being able to do that. So tonight we're going to talk about calming your emotions, and we have some tips about how to do that. Now, of course, always top of my list is meditation. Meditation is the best way to calm your emotions, but some people I know are resistant to that, and some people even have the notion that they need to calm themselves down first before they can meditate. And so here's some other tips on how to calm your emotions. And so the first one is acknowledge your emotions. Don't deny them. Recognize the way that you're feeling, because unless you squish your emotions down, they're kind of like clouds and they'll pass. They go through, their peaks and troughs and they float by. I mean, if you've ever seen a small child, look at how emotional they are and how swiftly they transition from one emotion to another. They do it really quickly. They can be crying 1 minute and 30 seconds later they can be laughing because they don't resist their emotions. They just allow them to flow. So the first tip is acknowledge and allow your emotions. And then, acknowledge any thoughts that are associated with the emotions that you're feeling. Because your thoughts can actually magnify your emotions. They can cause you to make mountains out of molehills. So, if your main emotion is anger, for example, and then you get thinking, I'm angry, I'm really, really angry, I'm really angry over and over again, then it can extend the length of time that you feel angry, and it can magnify it.
So basically you don't want to go running through the house yelling, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry.
That's right, exactly. So acknowledge the emotion and be conscious about what's happening in your head while you're feeling the emotion. And of course, the next one is acknowledge your underlying beliefs. So what are you believing about your emotion? Because if you can be neutral about your emotions, then that also will help your emotions to flow. But if you decide a particular emotion is bad and you resist it, then it will have a tendency to last longer because what you resist persists. And, of course, next one there is release judgment. It's related to that. What are your underlying beliefs? Is if you do you expect yourself to be in control at all times? Do you judge yourself if you're not? And of course, it's natural to be emotional every now and then. So validate your feelings. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge yourself for being vulnerable or for having an emotion that you judge to be good or bad. Just be the neutral observer of your emotions so they can shift without any effort on your part. And don't worry about other people judging them either. So, Corey, have you got any tips on calming the emotions to share with us, do you think?
Well, your comment about belief, what was the comment about belief you made?
Well, acknowledge your underlying belief. So, if you're having a particular emotion, what's your belief about that emotion?
No. I understand what you're saying. What's your belief about that emotion? Also, the other way it works as well. Emotion. Have some emotion about your beliefs, but don't overbear that. I mean, don't go crazy with it and try to impress that upon everybody else. Because I think a lot of people try to impress their beliefs, or like you say, you can be angry, but don't throw your anger at people. There's nothing wrong with emotion.
Right.
It's trying to force someone else or include somebody else and suck somebody else into an emotion, whether it be positive or negative.
Yeah, so don't use your emotion to manipulate others.
Correct.
Yeah. And then, realize that you are not your emotions. I think a lot of people don't even realize that. They're in the moment with their emotions, reacting and responding to them and expressing them. So separate yourself from your emotions, because you're not your emotions. Your emotions are actually your body talking to you. They're not you. They're your body telling you how it's responding to whatever reality you've placed it in at any particular time. So listen to the body. It's important to listen and respond, to it. But don't become the emotional experience to the exclusion of everything else that's going on.
I think another thing is really delve deep within yourself to understand exactly what an emotion is. And what I say by that is, I went through an exercise about 25 years ago, trying to differentiate different emotions, and the emotions of aggression, assertion, and what was the third one? There was three of them. Anyway, I found it very interesting that I had actually confused aggression and assertion in certain situations. There's another one. I forget. Like if you're being, it was in my mind before I started talking. I should have made a note. But it's interesting. I had confusion around certain emotions within me, and I'm not alone in that. I mean, there's many people don't understand the difference between fear and anxiety. There are two different emotions altogether. The fear of the future, or anxious about the future, and fear within yourself at a given point. Fear is very healthy in the present, in a sense, because it makes you stand up and pay attention to what's going on. But anxiety about the future holds you back. It's like that. It's like going skiing. You go to the top of the hill. You've never been skiing before down a hill. You go to the top of the hill, and you start breathing heavily, and you start perspiring, and all kinds of thoughts go through your head. Whereas fear would give you, a different, same sensations, but a different result.
Yeah. Well, fear freezes you. When there's fear, there's no movement at all. I
think the opposite. I think if you're anxious, anxiety fear causes adrenaline, and adrenaline causes action.
That's the fight or flight. That's the fight or flight response in your body.
Well, if you see your little child run out into the street and there's a car coming, what do you call that? The emotion you go through at that point in time.
If you see a child in front of a car.
Yeah, your child run out in front of a car. What do you? Then you run out. You're going to run out to save him. What's the emotion that goes through your being at that present time?
I don't know that would be an emotion. I think you would just react to that.
It's fear, but that's the true sense of fear. I think you're right with fight or flight. That should be fight, flight, or react. Like react to. What's the word? React to a stimulus, a threat.
Anyway, so we're talking about calming the emotions this evening and mechanisms that you can use or be aware of in order to calm your emotions. And so, do you know that you can have more than one emotion at the same time? And so, for example, it's possible to be angry and amused at the same time. So you can actually use the vibration of amusement to calm yourself down, to shift your emotional state. And, you can either do that energetically through the vibration of amusement, or you could find a way of shifting yourself into amusement by, singing a funny song or imagining your emotion as a funny caricature in your mind. And then, let's see, gosh, I've got a huge list of suggestions here about calming the emotions, and maybe we'll go through a few more of them a bit more quickly. So another one is, you know what, if you need to express yourself, if you need to shout or you need to cry, then just allow it, because that's releasing the energy around the emotion, and the emotion will flow and pass more quickly, and you'll calm down more quickly if you allow it to be expressed than if you quash it or if you press it down. Now, some other techniques for shifting your emotional state and calming them down are breathing techniques. We talked about them last week. Breathing techniques that can help you, change the way you feel, can help you to calm your body down. Also, just getting outside and getting some fresh air, connecting with nature and beauty, taking a break for a little while. Taking a time out, taking a few moments for yourself, especially if you're in some kind of emotional confrontation with somebody else.
Diet, that's a good one. That wasn't on my list. So diet can affect your emotions. So what would be an example of that, Corey? Well, to be over obvious, eating eating something like, or drinking beer or alcohol, which is food in essence, would give you a different emotion. But people react to foods differently. I know that there are nuts maybe, and certain things get people angry or get them upset or send them into different senses.
Oh, yeah, turkey, that affects
Turkey,
you.
yeah, but that affects you physically as well as. Yeah. Well, emotion. Actually, now that you caught me off guard with the question a little bit, but you say it all the time. You use a term that comfort food. Comfort food, chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
The meal that your mom used to cook at home when you were a kid, when you came home from school and had that cup of tomato soup, or in your case, tomato soup.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and exactly. And so I think in chocolate, it's the theobromine in chocolate, which actually has a mood boosting effect. And talking about mood boosting effects, exercise stimulates the release of endorphins, which will make you feel euphoric. And of course, exercise, if it exhausts your body a bit, it will help calm you down. And and another thing that I've especially this week been discovering is channeling your emotions into your creativity. So, for example, if you're angry, try and do something constructive with your anger. Channel your emotions into doing some artwork or writing a story. or some other project that you've been putting off. It's amazing how quickly you could get something done if you're feeling angry while you're doing it.
If you're angry, go for a drive and yell at the other drivers.
Yeah, and then, you know, of course, communication. So if your emotions are being triggered by another person, it can be a good idea to, once you've worked it out within your own being, to communicate with that other person.
I have another good one.
Oh, what's that?
Color.
Colour, that is a good one. Yes.
Color.
Different colours stimulate and different feelings, don't they?
They sure do.
Like red and yellow makes you want to eat your food quick and get out. Blue makes you want to relax. Yeah, that's true. And, you know, what else is there? Of course, I've said meditation, and that's my big one, and that's my favourite one, and that's the one I advocate for all of this. But as well as meditating, these are some other tips that you can do. Journaling, writing down your thoughts and feelings. And if you do that on a regular basis, you might even identify some patterns of emotional ups and downs that you go through on a regular basis. And then another one is, if you're in an emotionally charged situation, let go. You know, be aware of what you can and can't control, what you can and can't do anything about. And you know, let go of everything that you can't, because there's no point in getting all het up about it if there's nothing that you can do. So let go. And the other one I was going to say about communication is don't bottle it up. Find a friend, find a family member, find somebody to talk to. So that's about 20 different tips, folks, for calming your emotions. And of course, my top tip of all of those is meditation. And within meditation practices, my top tip of all of those would be grounding. Because grounding, which is the technique we teach a lot on this show, helps you release and let go of energy around. So you can change your emotional state simply by releasing the current circumstances down your grounding.
I have one more.
What's that?
Which, if you would have told me 10 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. But crystals and certain minerals and stones and things. They like what's it? Hematite calms.
Because it grounds you.
Yeah, it grounds you.
Well, and on your thing about diet, you know, tea, different teas, chamomile tea really relaxes you and calms you down. And I've always found, oddly enough, that rosehip tea somehow makes me feel silly. I don't know how that is.
Somebody's been slipping rosehip tea into Leslie's Tetley.
How funny is that? Hello everybody, welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. We've been talking about calming your emotions this evening and some tips to how you might be able to do that. And of course, top of the list is meditation. Meditation is a fantastic way to help you calm your emotions. Now we have reached that time in the show when we take your phone calls, and you can also email your questions to info@drlesliephillips.com. You can also go to drlesliephillips.com and fill out the free intuitive insight form, and that comes directly to the radio show to be answered. And of course you can ask a question about absolutely anything that you would like an intuitive insight about. Doesn't have to be about the show topic, it can be about anything. And the other thing that you can do is you can send us your suggestions for what you would like us to talk about in the show. So we're always looking for really great ideas for new show topics, and we like to cover things that you're interested in. So absolutely feel free to write to info@Dr. Leslie Phillips with your suggested topics. And I believe we have a caller that's just phoned up, so I'm going to wait for that phone call to come through. And let's see. Here we go. Hello, caller. Hello, caller. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, who am I talking to?
Annette?
Hello, Annette. How are you?
I'm pretty good, actually.
Great. And how can we help you this evening?
Well, you had said that you were happy to give a reading.
Yes.
And, I have called in the past using a different name, and you had told me about some issues, and we'd run out of time. So I'm calling back in, and we'll just see where things are at now.
Okay. So what were the issues in particular that you were interested in us looking at?
I think that the career is still, it's a little unclear, but it's heading in certain directions, and sort of like physical location of where I'm living. And then there were some health issues that seemed to be clearing up, and if there was any blocks.
Okay. So give us a little bit more information about the career direction and what areas you were considering or wondering about, and give us some idea about the physical location if there are some choices that you're considering. I can just scan generally otherwise, but it's always helpful to narrow things down if there's some choices that you're making.
Well, I've relocated from the East Coast back to the West Coast, but I still have property in the East Coast, and I'm sort of exploring options in Vancouver and been working freelance, but I wanted to get a paid position and feel more secure, but now it seems like I'm going back into doing my own business, and I'm wondering if I should invest in leases or renting a space and just go for it again.
What do you do, Annette?
Designer, seamstress, manufacturing clothes.
Okay.
So I make patterns.
Right.
So I could do my own designs and work, sort of seem to be working for other people, and freelance at home, but I consider myself a pretty decent designer. I've always had success selling my own designs, so there's that direction. It's a little bit muddy, but they work hand in hand. So, renting is a big investment, and I'm wondering if that's what I should do.
Okay. And then the health issue that you wanted to ask about, get it all on the table, and then I'll start taking a look for you.
I've been suffering with rheumatoid arthritis since 2010,
Yeah.
and I take no hard meds for that. And we had talked about that briefly the last time I called. There's maybe some issues in my chakras or something that you can see that might help.
Okay.
And then I don't know. It feels like things are starting to shape up and go swiftly in a direction and gain momentum. But I just thought we should, a check-in would be good.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll do a general check-in to begin with, and then we'll start delving into some of these areas. So let me just tune into you. If you could keep your eyes open while I do this.
Okay.
And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to generally look at the current growth cycle that you're in and give you some information about that.
Great.
And I'm going to give you a little bit of a healing as well, actually, because I'm seeing that the growth cycle that you're in is a growth cycle that has to do with self-affinity and making choices that support you. But I'm seeing that where you're at with that growth cycle is that there's a sort of a shadow or a cloud over it. So there's some things that get in your way of doing that. When you're making decisions and when you're deciding what to do, you don't have 100% permission to choose what you really want. So I'm seeing that in all of these choices that you're talking about, being unclear whether I should do this or I should do that, that's the underlying theme that's going on, is you're wanting to, in the unraveling of yourself, evolve into a version of yourself that puts yourself first, that loves yourself enough to put yourself first and allow yourself to choose what you really want. But at the moment, it feels like you don't know what you really want because of some... I'm saying, obviously, you do know what you really want, but the reason that you are unaware of it is this shadow, and I'll just look at what that's got to do with. And the first thing that comes up is... I call it perfect pictures, but it's this idea that there's a perfect choice, which there isn't. There's just the choice you make. But oftentimes the fact that there must be a perfect choice stops us making any choice at all, because we're so caught up in trying to choose the thing that's the very best, very right thing. And so that's, and then also self-judgment. So I'm seeing you have a tendency to judge yourself. So if you were to make a choice and then something to go wrong, you would blame yourself for making the wrong choice. And so letting go of ideas of expectations around how things should turn out, letting go of how you judge yourself, so that you can move into self-acceptance and self-forgiveness, which will then help you move forward into this vibration of self-affinity and loving and supporting yourself. And why don't you allow yourself to have what you truly want? Let's see. Well, this thing, it does look like it's kind of interesting that you have in your reality right now this thing of like doing things for other people, because I'm seeing that it has to do with some programming around putting others first, other people and their needs and their desires being more important than yours. And I would say that would come from your family and your childhood and just how you were brought up to be. And of course, if we just keep that programming as an adult, we continue to operate from it and to create through it. So the reality we create around us is based on those beliefs. And so I'm seeing all those things that I just mentioned are things that you could, blocks or things that you could work on to release and let go of. And in the doing of letting go of them, you would create some movement into the directions that you're wanting to go. It would make it easier, it would make the energy flow, it would make you feel more certain about your choices. Now that having said that, let's give you some information about your choices. So one thing that you were asking about was your physical location, because you've got some property on the East Coast and you moved to the West Coast. So are you wondering about moving back to the East Coast or whether to sell your property on the East Coast?
Yeah, that comes up.
Okay, so let's take a look at that. Well, to me, it doesn't look like the right time to sell your property on the East Coast. To me, it looks like you will be... It's sort of like when other things fall into place, you'll get clearer about that. But right now, it just looks like... it looks like it makes sense to keep that property, to me. And then, so let me look at the stuff around your career. And so wanting to be a designer in her own right, as opposed to somebody who's doing stuff for other people, and taking that leap into having your own space. So let's take a look. Well, of course, it is your heart's desire. It is what you have the highest affinity for, and you do. It is designing and creating your own designs, but you're not giving yourself permission to do that completely at the moment. And So let's take a look. So, because I'm just seeing you that is, you love it. It looks so bright and full of joy for you to be doing that, creating from your own unique flow of creativity. And so if we were to ask a question here, would it be what holds you back from doing that?
Just about needing money.
Money, that's what was that's what was coming up. That you've got this concept about where it's possible that for the money to flow from. So let's just take a look. Well, it just looks like the contrast between doing your own designs and working for somebody else is huge. Like there's very little joy, if not no joy at all, in the one thing, and just unbelievable amounts of joy in the other thing. And just looking at those vibrations, I just can't imagine that there could be so much joy, passion and enthusiasm that didn't attract other people that wanted to participate in that, including customers.
Well, I did have a thriving business, and I had to move, and it just, I guess, because I don't have investment behind me, I don't have a lump sum to support me, I keep taking work from other people to just keep putting out fires and have a little money, but I'm investing that money now into equipment, and I'm getting to the point where I could possibly make the leap. I don't have enough saved up, or some of the money, and this is something I wanted to bring up, another question, because we're on a roll, and you're bang on with everything, I feel. Some of the property on the East Coast is tied up in litigation. It was my investment. And that litigation, they basically work, even the courts have kind of screwed me over, but it can't come to a final resolution because they did, and it's been in a holding pattern because I was so burnt out from the litigation, I couldn't even face it anymore. Do you see anything surrounding that as an outcome? I seem to be blocked. Like, I'm on the verge of just addressing it, and I really need to, but because it is such a deep and legal matter that needs to go into the higher courts, it's a little scary, and I can't even get an attorney to work with me because they don't want to go against other attorneys and call them, the attorneys have committed fraud, and so did the judge. So nobody wants to take the case. So I'm in this horrible holding pattern with that, and I feel like that's a huge block I'm turning a blind eye to.
Well, it's kind of interesting that you keep using the word holding pattern, because those words holding pattern were on the tip of my tongue. I didn't say them, but when I was looking at it, that's exactly the words that I was being aware of, that it's in a holding pattern. So it's your property. So what was the legal case about in the first place?
It was predatory lenders, and it was in a foreclosure, but they manipulated the sale, and they took ownership of the property, but they didn't finish paying for it, but the judge is ignoring the fact that they didn't finish paying for it. So she gave them the right to take the property, and yet the sale has never been confirmed, nor it can ever be confirmed, and the money that came out of the sale is tied up. I can't get my hands on it, so I'm living like a pauper on one hand and can't even finance my own business while my resources are tied up in court.
So it's in escrow until the court case is sorted out. Is that what it is?
Yes, and I can't collect it because if I collect it, I'm walking away from more than triple the sum or double the sum out of what they didn't pay, and a huge chunk of property that's worth way more than the debt, which is why they stole the property as opposed to allowing me to pay off the debt. It was an ugly, ugly case of white-collar crime. And it's so major, and I did a lot of legal research, and it could be a very groundbreaking case. And because I'm not walking away and giving up, but I needed to just get away from that whole thing because it tears you apart. And they basically ripped me out of my home. I had to rehome all of my animals, and so I don't want to start crying, but it was huge. And people that look at you, I'm not trying to judge myself, but that people think that somehow you just defaulted on your loan and you deserved everything you got, and that's not what happened. So, I'm piecing my life together, and I really needed respite from that, but now it's been long enough, and I need to address it. And the thing is that, like, I could go get a studio tomorrow, but I don't even have. I could probably pay the first month's rent next week when I collect on this drapery job I'm doing. But then how do I come up with next? I'm pretty gutsy. I mean, I feel like I could, but it would sure be nice to have that settled and then get the money and be able to comfortably move forward with my own designs again, and breathe.
So is the situation at the moment, I'm just trying to get clear on, is the situation at the moment that you would have to open a new court case?
No, the same one is in limbo because the judge is now she's in a corner and she can't admit that she's helped the predatory lenders instead of doing what was right. So she hasn't given any kind of a decision because she's going to have to tell them there is no sale. Meanwhile, they've already sold the property to third parties. It's a really ugly, big mess. And you know that what happens if you're not properly represented, the court will just shove you under the rug because they don't want to face their own, their own atrocities. So I'm treading very carefully.
So she's not made a decision yet, but perhaps, surely the normal course of court proceedings requires that at some point she makes a decision within a particular time limit. Is that not the case?
Yeah, that's the thing. She hasn't. And now I've heard that she's retiring, and it might be the best thing to happen that a new judge takes this case, but at the same time he's going to have to overturn some of her decisions. What's pending is that the sale has to be confirmed, and the sale can't be confirmed because they didn't pay all the money they were legally supposed to pay for the job. The referee, helped them. He gave them the deed before he collected all the money. They stole money out of what they were supposed to have paid, and that's the residual money that was supposed to come to me, which is sitting in escrow. And I can't collect it, nor do I want to collect it because it's short by so much.
Yeah.
So the sale needs to get turned over. What she decided was, she literally decided she saw no reason to overturn the sale, yet why didn't they pay all the money? So basically she said to them, I'm not going to call you a thief, but why did you not pay for what you took? And so now that the answers have come in and there's no legal grounds, she's been silent for over a year and a half. And I've let sleeping dogs lay because I needed to rest. I've had, family issues happen, and I have to come out here and deal with them. And I needed to take a break, and my health was breaking down, and I literally had to get, rent another place to live, and barely could make ends meet, and really, really struggling, and my health has suffered, and it's now starting to turn around.
Okay, so I'll have to take a look quickly because we're due for another break.
Absolutely.
So it sounds very complex. So let me just see if I can get any further information about this for you. It seems to me that there is some kind of legal mechanism, some kind of route through the system that if you had a lawyer that knew the way this machine works, you could take. And so it looks like that there is some course of action legally that can get the machine working again. That's what I'm seeing, because I'm seeing that to me it looks like all is not lost. Okay, it looks that there is some kind of route to be taken here, and so you said you don't have a lawyer and you can't afford a lawyer. Is there? I'm just wondering whether there's. Is it not citizens' advice? I forget what they call it here. Civil liberties
I have an attorney who's working for me on contingency, but he's not all that aggressive, and he doesn't want to rock the boat. And I understand that this case is going to have to rock the boat a little bit. And I've figured out all the legal angles. I'm a little hesitant to do this pro se, without an attorney, because I've seen firsthand now how judges will just run roughshod over you. So it's that that attorney, that another attorney is what I need, and I need to attract it.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like. But if you like, you can stay on the line, but I am going to have to go to a break now.
Okay, I'll stay on because this is probably the biggest key in my life right now.
Everyone, welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. My name's Dr. Leslie Phillips and I am your host. And we have been talking this evening, amongst other things, about calming your emotions. And we're talking to Annette about an emotionally charged situation right now, because we've been talking about a legal matter that Annette is involved with. And Annette, you're still on the phone, aren't you?
Yes.
Right. So before the break, we were just looking at, is there a silver lining to this cloud? And I feel that, I think you hit the nail on the head that perhaps a different lawyer, might be better than the current one. Or for sure, to me, it looks like there is a legal way through this, and a route to a situation that resolves this. And to me, it looks very much. It does look like you're justified, and it looks like if you can identify someone who's willing to to help you and knows the steps to take. Normally on this show I don't predict the future, but I don't feel like this is predicting the future because it looks to me like you do have a case.
So maybe we should wonder, maybe the question is, do I search for an attorney, which I feel is a safer route, or should I just try to represent myself? Are you able to detect any kind of vibration around representing myself in this?
Yeah, it looks like you'd be better off looking for a lawyer to help you.
Okay. All right, well, that's good to know.
Yeah, it does. And it looks like one of the reasons is because I'm just seeing that there's some specific route or course of action that can be taken that perhaps you don't know about and wouldn't know about unless you identify someone to help you. Right? So it just looks like there's just some route that can be taken that's not being taken right now that would help it come to a conclusion.
I do know about a few of them. There's 2 or 3 options. Which is the best one, I'm not sure. And some of them could be done concurrently or one after the other. So it's complex, and it would be helpful because I don't want to ruin things of making a technical mistake.
Yeah. What are the 3 options?
Well, in this situation, legally, honestly, and ethically, it should be called fraud upon the court because the referee helped the plaintiff to cheat and to steal the property, and so did the judge. So legally and ethically also, I could be taking the judge personally possibly into federal court and charging her with aiding, abetting the theft of the property and the money. So it goes into grand larceny and crime. The other route is tort, which is like halfway between civil and criminal, where you're wronged and you've been damaged by the referee and the judge helping him, and then the fraud upon the court basically overturns everything. Nothing that was done has any weight whatsoever legally, and the property would come back to me. So those are really, in the ideal world, in an ideal court of law, that's how it could come out. The shorter route and maybe easier route for everybody is to simply say the sale was never completed, the legal monies were never paid, therefore the deed is void, which also then makes it fraud upon the court for them to have taken the property. Again, you get fraud, and then you would follow that up with a tort claim for damages. Not only do you get the property back, but you get all the damages for having the property been taken from you. And this is probably what's going to end up happening. So Because it's as you said, the letter of the law, black letter of the law, clearly states what needed to have been paid, and nobody can make that money appear, no matter how many different ways the judge tried to phrase the fact that they stole it and that she allowed them to take possession without having paid, and so did the referee. So, like I said, I'm able to articulate all of this, but how you get treated and what decision the court ends up, like the judge hands to you when you're there without the protection of an attorney is.
Well, that's why I'm seeing you. You need a sort of more like a neutral third party, which would be another lawyer
because then they have the eyes of them upon them. I've had that happen where I've stood there with the law on my side, and the judge is basically, I've been battling the judge as well as the referee who's supposed to be representing both sides, never mind just the plaintiff. So I've basically taken on the entire legal system in that area. So I'm not surprised I ended up getting sick.
Yeah. So, of those three options that you told me about, I wasn't reading the same clear energy as when I said I tuned into a pathway that could be taken. So,
really?
so yeah.
There's something else going on.
So I mean, but I do think a big part of it is sort of almost like having a champion or someone who's proactively takes it on.
Well, you know what? There's one option I didn't mention to you, which has been in the wings and has been open to me for some time. It goes hand in hand with me filing a complaint, an ethics complaint against the referee and their attorney and the judge, and going to the administrative court, who have asked me to send this to them, and I just haven't done it because I've been so burnt out. The administrative court, the administrative judge, would look down on what's happened, and then they would take it upon themselves to pursue the fraud charges and any criminal activities by the attorney, by the judge, and by the referee. And that might be the best route ever, because then I'm giving it to the people who are supposed to police the court.
Yeah. It looked to me like something that takes it off your hands,
Yeah, this would take it out of my hands.
Yeah.
And actually, I went to the DA's office in the beginning, and I didn't know at the time the referee actually worked in the DA's office, and they're all the good old boys. They went over and talked to him, chatted to him about things. And, of course, they're going to try to cover up for him. So, but they told me, they said, we don't pursue criminal things on our own. If you got the administrative and the ethics committee involved and they were investigating, we would work with them to see what crimes were committed by the referee. So maybe this is what you're sensing, that this is the route that it needs to go, and I do need to go to a higher court and file complaints.
Well, that energy looks closer to it, but I'm also seeing there still seems to be something else, but for sure, it just looks like something that. Let's see if I can. And again, we've got 3 minutes left in the show now, but let's see if I can get any other information for you. Give me a moment. It's always awkward to go quiet on the radio.
Shall I hum?
No. Well, I think it's good that you've taken a break from it, and I think also that that's why it's because you're so deeply involved in it, and it's personal and it's emotional and it's painful, and it just looks like there's some solution that sort of helps not takes you out of the picture, but so that all of that upset and pain and emotion is not sort of, because our energy sort of affects how we create our reality, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's sort of like, it just looks like there's some solution which relates to you that takes it off your plate, so that you can feel, oh, now I feel supported and somebody's taking care of it, and I can let go of because I feel like I feel confident in this person or this route. So I feel like there is a way forward, and it's not the one about the ethics committee was closer to it of all four of the things that you said, but there's still something else that maybe you've not become aware of yet, or maybe it's a particular person that is able to come into the picture and help you. So we're out of time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll search again for a law firm, because often you can come across websites and it just resonates and it's the right person who understands it. I've spoken to many, many, many lawyers only to meet with dead ends and disappointment. So
what about BC Civil Liberties? Have you? I don't know what things they cover and whether this would, but that they, there might be some people who can at least refer you to somebody.
I can try to look in. I mean, the problem is that this is in the States. It's not even in Canada. Yeah, so it's a different set of laws, and it has to be, who knows, maybe someone's listening to this show who's licensed to practice in New York State.
Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to another Unlocking Your Truth podcast by Dr. Leslie Phillips. For more information, go to our website at drlesleyphillips.com. That's drlesleyphillips.com, where you can ask questions or send her an email, and there's many free gifts on there for you as well. Come back again.